So hello and welcome. This is Time to Talk on Wednesday, and I am Dr. Claire from Cognitive Sports Therapy, and I am joined by Rebecca, who, do you like to be called Rebecca or Beck?
I don't mind.
And Rebecca there's a big long list of things. I went to your website, I was like, oh my word, you have so many qualifications. So you are a life coach, a personal trainer, a nutritionalist, a yoga instructor, a Pilates instructor. There's nothing that you do not do. It's amazing. And I kind of have connected with you through the Pretty Powerful because I have connected with Emma before, and what you two are doing is really inspiring, and we'll talk about that at some point, I think, as part of this conversation. But I invited you here today because we're doing a bit of some chat around connectedness this month as an antidote to loneliness, which is the theme of mental health awareness this month. And I thought, who better to have on here to talk about connectedness to ourselves and getting to know ourselves a bit better than yourself. But do you want to say anything more about who you are and where you've come from to get to where you are today?
So first of all, I trained as a personal trainer, but I was never interested in the people who really wanted that kind of mass physical transformation. I was always much more interested in why people were where they were, why were they coming to me, what was going on for them. So very quickly then started to kind of develop my skill set into a much more of a holistic coach. And because I don't believe, and I think you align with me here, Claire, that you can't separate the mind and the body, that they are one picture. And to try to treat somebody's physical appearance or the issues that they have with their physical self without addressing anything in terms of their belief, their connectedness with their self, their food script and what's going on with them there, it just, you don't really get anywhere with anybody long term. And my ultimate goal with all my clients is that they leave me and that they leave me happy and that they leave me feeling stable with themselves. Hence why I have qualified in so many different areas, because I feel like I now am really well placed to be able to do that. So that's where I am.
And it's interesting learning as well, isn't it? I've done some of the things that are on your list myself, and it's not a hardship to learn, and it's stuff that actually I think I draw from myself and then can also kind of hand on to clients, and it's all great stuff, isn't it?
And I don't think you can get complacent either, because with all the areas, like when you're looking at lifestyle and wellness and science and studies, and it's forever expanding. And I think the second you decide that you have nothing else to know, you can't sit still with it, I don't think. So yeah, absolutely.
So I was hoping today that we could talk a little bit, I guess it probably dips in across a lot of these fields that you are involved in, but mostly into the world of life coaching. And I guess that kind of first stage when someone is struggling with kind of connecting with themselves a bit. And I think you, in one of the messages to me before this, you said that often adults, we lose that connection. And whether you have some top tips or what you do with clients to help them to kind of understand themselves a bit more and therefore gain that connection and therefore have a purpose, or they can work out where they want to go because they understand themselves a bit better. How do you start with that?
Okay, so a lot of people, when they first come to somebody like me, have lost themselves. And they're looking externally for an answer to something, whether they're kind of, a lot of people put all of their eggs in the weight loss basket, and they think that there's going to be a magic answer in there, and they have this sense of kind of searching, I guess. So when that first conversation happens, I think, with somebody when they're reaching out and they don't know where they are, it's about trying to dive into what their relationship is with themselves, and often it's very critical. I think a lot of us come from this place of perfectionism, right? So a lot of us come from a place of striving so hard in just about all areas of our life, and feeling like we're failing. And I think our culture today is really guilty of setting us up for this idea that we have to be achieving everything all the time, and it's impossible. We can't be all these things. We can't wear all these hats, and not all at the same time. I mean, allostatic load, like our stress, the amount of stress that we can cope with at any one time dictates that our motivation, we use the word motivation loosely because motivation is something that comes and goes, but where your energy is kind of directed towards can't be in all areas all at once. Like, that's how we end up in burnout. That's how we end up kind of in really yucky situations with ourselves. And so a lot of the time it's about sitting down and looking at what the picture is, like day to day, okay, what's going on for you. But often there's an area that people are particularly unhappy with, and it's not always the area where the problems are happening.
Yeah,
it's where they project that feeling of discomfort, and it's often on ourselves. Like, it's so often on something which we are doing wrong, we are not good enough, and that script of self-criticism is just really strong. So there's two main, I mean, there's one, you have to identify where that's coming from, but in the present. So where is that coming from today? Like, with a life coach, you tend not to look back. With a counsellor, you would look back.
Okay,
you would delve into the past.
Yeah.
With a life coach, it's more about from the present moment forwards. So where are we in this moment as an adult today, in your present mind? What is going on for you? And then working on, to start with, it's just being inquisitive, and it's noticing. A lot of the time we move so fast, and we are so, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Yep. It's finding those moments of pause. It's finding those moments of breath where you can check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Because we live our lives very externally. Like, social media, we're kind of scrolling, and we're looking at other people, and we're looking at other pictures, and we're living by expectation. Mm-hmm. And what we lose is what we really want. We lose this sense of actually what feels good for us, and that's a really lonely, disconnected place to be. So one of the main things I get all my clients to do is to journal.
Yeah.
But journaling is something which people can be quite resistant about doing, because when you journal, you have to face it. Like, it's literally there on the paper for you to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can be a bit confronting sometimes, but the more you can flip it into kind of like gratitude, and that, and looking for the good in what you've done, and the good in your day, and without it being that kind of toxic positivity of I'm so great, because you don't always feel that way.
Yeah.
You're looking for the little bits.
But as you say, it's creating that space to kind of reflect a little bit, isn't it? And I think, as you say, I think that the scope of all the different therapies that are out there. So be that something that it looks right back. So you're sort of really sort of psychoanalytical kind of work, your Freudian, tell me about your mother kind of work, and your CBT, which would be, I guess, more even in the moment, and then life coaching, which is obviously kind of looking forward a little bit more. They're all at the key of all of them working is that moment and time to reflect on who you are and where you are, which, as you say, we often don't make space for. So they all have different ways of working, but at the heart, it's all about reflection, isn't it? And thinking about.
Yeah, and it's a willingness as well. I think, like, sometimes you have to be prepared to look in the mirror and see what's really there, as opposed to what you're projecting is there. And often that picture isn't the same. And often it's a lot better than you think.
Yeah.
Often we look with such a critical eye, and when you stop and you step back and you think, actually, think about where I've come from, think about, you know, what's brought me to what my story is to today, and then what I may be capable of going forwards. Like, maybe I need to have a little bit more belief in myself. Yeah, and again, that's that connecting, that's that moment of reflection with yourself is pivotal, really.
Because as you say, that negative voice that kind of holds us back, we've all got it. Some people definitely much stronger than others for various different reasons. It's there, but I guess when we're looking forward and trying to, as you say, live at our potential and move forward and feeling powerful and strong and healthy, we kind of need to let go of that and change that kind of internal dialogue, no matter where it's come from. There needs to be that moving.
I mean, the thing is, all those therapies, they work together, and sometimes you have to go. You have to go into the. You have to go to the psychologist, and you have to sit with that, and some people need that answer. If they haven't got it, it's part of the picture, isn't it? So I think whenever you're thinking about who perhaps you need to reach out to for professional help, if that's where you're at, you have to think about where you are. And if, for example, if you're working through a grief, it's definitely not a life coach you need. You need somebody who's going to help you really unpack that. And that isn't about looking forwards. That's about, sitting with where you are a little bit more. So, I think it's all about being honest with yourself, and sometimes that's painful. But often you realize you're a little bit more brilliant than you thought you were. So,
I mean, it taps in a little bit. I kind of came along and gave a chat to the Pretty Powerful a little bit ago, didn't I? And that thing around motivation and what motivates us and understanding our why. And if we're very motivated by how we look and how we come across to other people, then ultimately we're always going to be disappointed, and we're going to feel like we're failing on some level because we cannot be perfect. Whereas if we can gain some understanding and some different motivation for ourselves, like we want to feel fit and healthy, and we want to be able to enjoy life and go for those runs and feel good as opposed to look good, then that can kind of be really powerful and help us to really kind of not feel like we're failing all the time, make us feel like we're achieving things. And
that comes back to the connectedness again, because our bodies are forever going to change. Like, they're going to change, they're going to age, they're going to, as we go through different processes, different hormonal shifts, whatever that might be. And but if you kind of your strength and your worth, it matters a lot less. And I think when you hang everything on external values, it's very difficult to feel content. It's impossible. It's impossible. And that, I think, helping people to understand intrinsic versus extrinsic motivations, like what really drives, if you put your hand on your heart and you think, what really drives me, what really, really lights my fire, then getting to the grips with that, and then focusing on that as your motivation to push forward, it shifts then. It shifts how you look at yourself in the mirror. We were saying this a moment ago, like, where are those pictures that show two people who look exactly the same physically, but in terms of like a transformation, but actually their entire world has shifted and they are now happy and fulfilled and getting out of bed in the morning feeling good about themselves. Like, that's a thing. You don't have to transform yourself from head to toe in order to value yourself, as much as you should be valued.
And you don't need to publish pictures of yourself semi-naked to do that either.
Absolutely not.
It's that's what we're bombarded by a lot these days, is these pictures. So we feel that that's what we should be trying for, and it feels like we can only put the word inspirational underneath our story if we have a picture to back it up. It's it's sad that that's the way society has gone. But I think we can make some choices around that, can't we? I mean, I want this always to come with a positive message. We can switch off those kind of people and those, you know, those posts that we can get on our social media, and turn our eyes off them and make choices around who we do follow and what we do see in those threads for ourselves. They always waggle their way in somehow, but we can choose to not progress or get too involved in them if we
can. And see, I mean, there are lots of people promoting a different message now. You have, you know, the one that says actually rest is important, self-care is important, you know, and feeling your absolute best is where, you know, that's where kind of contentedness is, connectedness is.
We've talked for 15 minutes already. These go so fast, but I think I've got a couple of like kind of little big messages in there to do with just on taking a pause, thinking about where you're at, journaling being a really useful thing to create that pause and moment of reflection in your day, and thinking about who you have around you from the point of view of coaches and mentors and people that you're watching and following. And I kind of just wanted to say just a little bit about what you're doing with the Pretty Powerful Plan, because you've got a summer program coming up, you and Emma, and if you don't follow Rebecca and the Pretty Powerful, I encourage you to do so. They are promoting more of a lifestyle change as opposed to a diet and exercise regime that is going to have you looking a certain way. It's all about how you feel, I'd encourage you to have a look at that, because they have got 12 weeks coming of good stuff that'll make you feel hopefully nice and healthy and more like yourself. I don't know if you want to say anything more about it, but other than encourage people to look. But you do kind of do everything on there, don't you? You talk about nutrition, you talk about how you're feeling, you talk about motivation, and you also offer a really nice mixture of kind of exercise that's accessible to everybody. So it's a really nice thing that you guys have put together, and I'm excited to see where you go as well, because it just seems to be getting bigger and better every time I look at you guys. But thanks for coming on, Rebecca. If anyone like always has any questions, either for myself or Rebecca, please feel free to message me and I can pass them on to Rebecca. But hopefully this has given people some inspiration about, you know, to have a think about who they are and not necessarily feel they need to look a certain way in order to feel good about themselves, because it's not all about that at all.
Definitely no.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Bye.